I will show you how to use the player's tools to create various crop fields in your game. You will then be able to plant different crop types and, if you wish, to remove the crop fields and plant them in other places. So before we begin, just scroll down to the tilesets folder here and double click Game Tileset, and this will load up the tileset here in this tab. And in a previous tutorial, we've loaded in the tilled dirt terrain. However, for our crop field, I'm going to use a different tilled dirt tile map, because if we click on this one and just zoom in, there's extra pixel space in between the edge and the actual tilled dirt. So head over to the Sproutlands Sprite Basic Pack, and in the Tilesets folder, we want to choose the Tilled Dirt Wide version 2. So back in Assets, Game and Tilesets, just drag the Tilled Dirt Wide version 2 and drop that into that folder. Then let's rename this and format it. And I'll call it Tilled Dirt Wide Crop Field. Now let's bring over the crop field into our tileset and just click No here. And as you can see, the distance between the tilled dirt and the edge of the pixels is slightly smaller. Then just drag the inspector up and just scroll down in our terrain set. So we've still got tilled dirt terrain here, but I'll leave that in there for now anyway. And we'll just add another one. And I'll call this Tilled Dirt Terrain Crop Field. And I'll just change this colour. Then let's set up these tiles. So let's just activate these tiles here and then click the first tile here. Then choose Select, choose First Tile, and in Terrains, choose Terrain Set 0 and then Terrain 3. So it's 0, 1, 2 and 3 for the Tilled Dirt Terrain Crop Field. Then let's choose Paint, then choose Terrain Set 0 and then Tilled Dirt Terrain Crop Field. And then let's just paint those terrains. So now the terrain has been painted, let's just head over to Scenes, Test, and open up the Test Scene Tile Map scene and select Tilled Dirt, and then select in Terrains, Tilled Dirt Terrain Crop Field, and then let's just paint that terrain to test it. And that's working okay. So we can begin creating our crop field component. So let's begin by creating another test scene. Go to Scenes, Test, and duplicate the test scene cropped scene. Just right click and click duplicate. And we'll call this test scene crop fields tilled dirt and just duplicate that. Let's open the scene and let's just rename the scene here. So we'll call that test scene crop fields tilled dirt as well and just save that. Then what we need to do is just to select the previous corn and tomato objects and just remove those. And we can just say OK to that and then just save the scene again. Then in the test scene, add another child node, search for node 2D and create that. Let's rename the node and call this crop fields. Then open the game tile map and add a child node and search for tile map layer and rename this to tilled soil. Then add another child node to the test scene and search for node, create and rename this to field cursor component. Then open the components folder under scenes and just drag this component into there and then save that scene. Then right click, attach a script and just save this as field cursor component. So just create that. Then let's just reposition our crop fields node and just move that above the player and then do the same with the field cursor component. Then in the field cursor component script, let's call class name field cursor component. Let's add some variables. So we'll do an export variable for grass tile map layer, which is type tile map layer. Add export for tilled soil tile map layer, which is also a tile map layer. And this will be our tile map layer grass and tilled soil here. Then export another variable, which is our terrain set, and set this to a default value of 0. Then export another variable, which is terrain type int with a default value of 1. Then create a non-ready variable which is our player, and then use get tree, get first node in group, and then just use the string player. So let's open the player scene, and on the player node, go to the node option here, and then let's add a new group. Just click the plus button here, write player, and make this global, and then just click OK. Then head back over to the field cursor component script, and let's add some more variables. So variable mouse position, which is vector2, for cell position, which is vector2 I, then variable cell source ID, which is of type int, for local cell position, which is type vector2, and for distance, which is a float. Let's override the unhandled input event method, and we'll say if event.isAction pressed, and then check for the hit. So when the player uses the till tool, this event will be called, and we'll check the tool manager. So tool manager dot selected tool, if that is equal to the till ground tool, then we'll call some other methods. So create another method called get cell under mouse, and then get the mouse position, and then use grass tile map layer, and then the function get local mouse position. Then we'll set the cell position, and then we'll get the grass tile map layer and use the dot local to map function and pass in the mouse position. Then we need to set the cell source ID. So with the grass tile map layer, we'll call get cell source ID and pass in the cell position. Then we'll set the local cell position. So using the grass tile map layer, use map to local function and again pass in the cell position. Then we'll set the distance, and we'll get the player, and on global position, use the distance to function and use the local cell position. Then once we've set these variables, let's call another function to connect the terrain, and call this add tilde soil cell. And we'll say if distance is less than 20 pixels and the cell source ID is not equal to -1, then get the tilde soil tile map layer, and then set cells terrain connect and open square brackets and pass in the cell position. Then the second variable is terrain set, the third variable is terrain, and the fourth variable is true. And then back in the unhandled input method, just call the add tilde soil cell underneath get cell under mouse. So for debugging, I'm going to print some of these statements. So we'll print the mouse position, the cell position, and cell source ID. And then after that, let's also print the distance. So let's now connect the export variable. So click field cursor component and go back to the inspector. And we need to set the grass tile map layer. So we'll just click assign and choose grass here. And then choose the tilde soil layer here. And then for terrain set, this is 0 and the terrain is set to 1. So let's just open our tile set and then click the tilde soil and just open the game tile set resource and just scroll down. So the terrain set 0 has 4 terrains in it. That's 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we are currently targeting the tilde dirt terrain, which I added in an earlier tutorial. So what I'm going to do, I'll leave it on there for now. And as you can see, there is a gap between the edge and the pixels, as I mentioned earlier. So head back to the field cursor component and just leave these values. And let's test the scene. So just move the screen up and then choose the tilde tool. And let's just click on a water tile. I'll just bring this down a little bit more. And I've clicked the water tile and we can see the mouse position is here, the cell position, and the cell source ID is -1, which means we've not interacted with the grass tile. And the distance between the player and the mouse click is 237. So I'm just going to click here in the grass area and we have the mouse position, cell position, but the cell source ID is greater than -1, which means we've interacted with the grass tile. So we can check for that value and we have our distance here. So now I'm going to click at the player about here to generate our tilde dirt. So let's just do that. And then I can move the player around and start to create the tilled dirt map. And as you can see, I'm outputting the cell positions here. Now the original tilled dirt terrain has a large gap in it. So when we add the crops later, they don't sit very well. So what I'm going to show you is how we can just switch that terrain, and then you can reuse this component in future to overlay many different terrains in your game. So let's close this window, and it's very easy. We can just update the terrain here. As long as the terrain set is still 0, we can always modify the terrain set if you wish, but I only have the 1. So go back to tilled soil, and we need to set it to 3, so 0, 1, 2 and 3 again. So go back to field cursor component and just update this to be 3, and then I'm going to test the scene again, and this time, as you can see, the terrain is slightly bigger, and this is the terrain I want to actually position and plant my crops in. So let's close that. I'll reset this because I've only got the 1 terrain, so I'm just going to set the default to 3 here, and it's always set. Then when I use this component in other levels, the terrain's already set for me. I'm just going to remove those debug statements from the field cursor component. So let's allow the player to remove or delete a dirt tile. Go to Project, Project Settings, and we'll add a new input map which allows that action. To add a new action, and call it Remove Dirt, and then Add, and then click the plus button here. And for listening for the input, hold the Control key down and then click with the left mouse button. So we get Control plus left mouse button, and we should have a tick box here, and click OK, and then click Close and save that. Then back in the field cursor component script, before the isActionPressHit event, we'll say if event dot isActionPressRemoveDirt, then check if the tool manager selected tool is till ground. Then call get cell under mouse again, and then change this to be elif. Now we need to create a new function. So underneath add tile, let's create a new function and call this remove tilled soil cell, and say if distance is less than 20, then tilled soil tile map layer dot set cells terrain connect, pass in the cell position in brackets, and then set terrain set to 0, terrain to -1, and true. Let's just copy that and just scroll back up to the event is action pressed remove dirt, and then after get cell under mouse, we'll just call that method here. You may have noticed that I'm actually checking for the remove dirt action press first, and I've done this on purpose because in the input maps we're using the left mouse button in both remove dirt and hit. However, in remove dirt we have a dual key combo. We're checking for control and the left mouse button. If hit was checked first, it would always get called because it's only ever checking for left mouse button, and that action will always be picked up. So because I need to check for 2 inputs, it's better to check for them first, and then if control and left mouse button isn't pressed at the same time, then I'm only listening for the left mouse button. So if you have many input map combinations which all use a common key, you have to make sure you are checking the input order correctly. Let's now test the scene. So run the current scene, choose the till tool, and then let's just create some tilled dirt. Then hold down Control and click with the left mouse button, and as you can see, that's now deleting the terrain. Now we can start placing crops on our field. So add another child node and choose node and create that, and rename this to crops cursor component, and drag that into our components folder and just save that. Then create and attach a script, and we'll just save it as crops cursor component into the components folder and create that. Then give it the class name crops cursor component. Then just reposition the node below field cursor component. Then create an export variable and get the tilled soil tile map layer, which is type tile map layer, and then create an onReady variable and call this player, which is type player, and then get the player from the first node in the group. So the next variable will be corn plant scene, and then preload the corn scene from the scenes objects and plants folder. And we'll do the same with the tomato plant scene. So just preload the tomato scene again from scenes objects and plants folder. Then for the next variables, we want to get the mouse position, which is vector 2, the cell position, vector 2i, cell source ID, which is type int, local cell position, which is vector 2, and distance, which is float. And we've used these same variables in our field cursor component. Now head over to the field cursor component and copy the unhandled input code. Go back to cropped cursor component and just paste that underneath. Then go back to field cursor component and copy get cell under mouse and paste that underneath the unhandled input. However, now copy tilde soil tile map layer and paste that over the grass tile map layer, because this time we want to detect if we're clicking the tilde soil tile map layer, which will get us the correct cell source ID, and then we know we're interacting with that type of tile. Then we can apply and add our crop scene to that tile. So we're going to create two new methods here to replace remove tilde soil cell and the add tilde soil cell. So the first function we'll create is add crop. Then let's just create a new function called add crop and return void. Then in here, we just want to check if distance is less than 20. Then check the tool manager selected tool is equal to the plant corn tool. And then we'll get the corn plant scene and instantiate an instance of our corn scene. Then get the corn instance and set the global position to be the local cell position, which we get from the tilde soil tile map layer. Then call get parent, find child, and we want to find the crop fields node and add the corn instance to the crop fields node. So this is the crops cursor component, and the parent will be the test scene node, and then we just search and find this crop fields node here, and then we can add the child. Then let's do another if statement, and we want to save tool manager selected tool, and the tools is plant tomato. Then let's make an instance of our tomato scene. Then set the tomatoes instance global position to the local cell position. And then we can get the parent, find the child, and then add the child to the crop fields node here. Let's create another function, and we'll call this function remove crop. And again, we'll just check if the distance is less than 20. And then we'll get all of the crop nodes from this field here. And then we'll use a for loop to search for a node inside of the crop nodes. And what we want to check if the node global position equals the local cell position which we've just detected. And if we find a node, then let's remove it from the scene. Now copy this function name and just paste it over the remove tilde soil cell. Now select the crops cursor component here and let's assign the tile map to tilde soil. So click the assign button and then just choose tilde soil and click OK. And back in the crops cursor component, go back to the unhandled input method, and for event is action press hit, we want to check that the selected tool on hit is first either plant corn or is tool manager selected tool is tools plant tomato. So on hit, we're going to check if we've got either the plant corn or plant tomato tool selected. But when we want to remove the corn, we're actually just going to check if the till ground tool is selected. Now let's test the scene. And first choose the till tool and let's just till the land. Then choose the plant corn crops tool and then just plant the corn. And then let's choose the plant tomatoes and just plant the tomato crops. Now let's choose the watering can and let's just water our crops. Then we can speed the game up And now I can collect the harvest. And then if I click the till tool and hold Control down, I can now remove the crops field and plant a new field somewhere else. Now that brings us to the end of this tutorial on how to till the land and plant your crops. In the next tutorial, I will show you how to save the game so that you can save the state of the tilled land and the crops and other various elements in your game. If you like what you've seen in this tutorial, please remember to hit like and subscribe so you receive updates of my future tutorials. And thank you for watching.